Hey, Dr. Bryson here. I hope you're having a good day. In this video, I want to talk briefly about social bonding theory as well as neutralization theory. So, social bonding theory, um, or some would say social control theory, is part of this as well. That will be covered in chapter 38 of your main textbook, and that is a reading from Travis Hershey. There is a reading from Sykes and Matza on the techniques of neutralization. Very important that you read that. And then there is a reading from Edwin Sutherland, no relation. The actor is no relation, but Edwin Sutherland and differential association theory. Now, you already have a video on Edwin Sutherland. But I wanted to talk just briefly about the social control theory as well as techniques of neutralization theory. Those are two different theories. So with social control theory, the one thing I want you to pay attention to is how our bonds with others control our behavior. There are certain losses that we don't want to have. We might think that I want to go do something, but if I do this, I will lose my family. In fact, when I worked in the prison system, I will tell you that there were a lot of folks that I worked with that were inmates that were actually a failure of social control theory. They had a child that either truly had been molested or that they believed had been molested, and some of those the child wasn't molested, and they went and either murdered or severely beat the person that they thought was responsible. What ended up happening is they lost their family. Those people were now no longer on the street with their children to be able to protect their children. See, social bond theory says that I've got this bond that I don't want to give up by going to prison. So there are things that I won't do because the crimes that I commit might lead me to losing those things, or I might alienate my family. So please make sure that you read the Hershey chapter on the control theory of delinquency. Now, Sykes and Matza, they began to publish, or the techniques of neutralization began to be published back in the 1950s. It's no coincidence, I don't think, that cognitive psychology as a treatment method was developing in the 1950s as well, with rational emotive therapy, or RET, that later became REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy, straight cognitive therapy with Aaron Beck, and then later David Burns. But the idea of neutralizations is that we have these thinking errors. In criminology, we call them neutralizations. In psychotherapy, remember I'm a licensed professional counselor as well, we call them cognitive distortions or thinking errors, but they're the same thing. But neutralizations neutralize anything in my head that will prevent me from committing a crime. Now, back in the 70s and since then, there has been a book published called The Criminal Mind that claims to be something new, but it really picks up on the idea of the neutralizations. So, for instance, a shoplifter who steals from Walmart might say to themselves, Walmart is a large company and they won't even miss this $50 worth of merchandise. Or they can write it off on their insurance. So they'll convince themselves that it's okay, that it's somehow morally okay for them to steal for that reason. And now you'll notice that they have mens rea, They have the intent to take something that they know doesn't belong to them, and then they take something that doesn't belong to them, actus reus. So they've got the two elements of the crime. They've committed a crime. That is a crime. But in their mind, they make it morally okay. So these are the neutralizations. Now, I want you to think about the bonds, the neutralizations, and compare that to Sutherland's points. You only have 3 pages, 4 pages of Sutherland that you need. No, 3 pages of Sutherland that you need to read. So, and he's got, and that those 3 pages list Sutherland's points. So compare the ideas of the techniques of neutralization, the ideas of this social control, social bond theory. Compare that to Edwin Sutherland. Now, as you do that, also think in terms of social disorganization theory. The part of social disorganization theory says that, we've got folks from all these different cultures being thrown together in this zone in transition, and so they're not able to practice their cultural norms, mores, folkways in the same ways because there's no cultural bonding going on. So there's a loss of that element. But so I want you to think in terms of how are all these theories actually connecting together. I want you to think in those terms. And in fact, your critical thinking discussion post is actually about that. I'll read it for you, but you can read it yourself. Think about the 3 theories we are studying in this unit. What threads run through all 3 theories? That is, how are they alike? How do the theories diverge from one another? That's your critical thinking discussion post for this week. I know that it is probably a more complex, although worded much more simply than usual, but the actual thought that you need to do is a lot more complex. We'll see you next video.